Over the next few days, Cherwell will be interviewing various candidates from around Oxford. I'll be speaking to the candidates from Oxford, West and Abingdon, which 5 years ago was one of the most marginal seats in the whole election, with only 0.3% of the vote separating the Conservatives and the Lib Dems. Today, I'm speaking to the Labour candidate, Sally Copley. Welcome.
Thank you.
It must be a bit strange being the Labour candidate, but still polling in third place.
I think I'm really glad I'm doing it, and I'm doing it because Labour is actually the real alternative to the Liberal Democrats in Oxford, West and Abingdon. For a long time, the Liberal Democrats have borrowed our vote, and I would say that they've squandered it. They haven't done what we needed to be done. So we're running and we're here because we want the vote back, and actually Labour is the real alternative.
I've spoken to a number of students who are slightly concerned about Labour's immigration policy. The famous red mug with controls on immigration written on it, I think people weren't very pleased with and thought that perhaps Labour shouldn't be participating in these kind of scaremongering immigration tactics. Perhaps as a more left-wing Labour candidate, you don't agree with that sort of thing.
And suffice to say, I do not have that mug. There was a great campaign that's launched a couple of weeks ago that I just love, called I'm an Immigrant, which is just remembering actually, something like a third of our staff in the NHS come from other countries.
Yeah.
I think you get massive benefits from that because you get to hear different ways of doing things. I mean, and one of the ironies around that is that the UKIP party, bans this about as a problem with the NHS. Actually, NHS workers I've spoken to tell me that the NHS would collapse without immigration. So we've got to get that perspective into it. But what happens is we forget what the terms asylum seeker and refugee actually mean. They mean people who are fleeing awful circumstances. So the 800 people who've died in the Mediterranean this weekend is one of the most shocking things that I can imagine. And you can probably realise, from my campaigning background and where I've worked before, I'm appalled by this. And we have to remember, it is actually current Conservative Liberal Democrat government policy to let children drown in the ocean. I mean, that has to be wrong. And Labour said that's wrong. So I understand about, the mug, I think, was just unhelpful. Actually, what we're trying to do is take the heat out and saying that where there are issues around wage exploitation, and that's where the real problem is, where there's not enough housing because we haven't built it, actually what we need to do is be focused on those things rather than stigmatising people who've already had enough to deal with.
And not allowing immigrants benefits until they've worked in the country for 2 years, is that not stigmatising people?
I think the Tories are saying 4 years even. I mean, I think I'm much more comfortable with saying we need to tackle wage exploitation, making sure firms can't recruit abroad only, and making sure that we support people in integrating into the country. I'm much more comfortable with that.
But do you think Labour's participating too much in this immigration scaremongering? With policies like 2 years before you get benefits?
I think it's really difficult because so I'm just being really honest about it, I think what Labour's trying to do is showing that it's heard concerns, and it really upsets me when I hear people who need a Labour government telling me they're going to vote UKIP because of immigration, because UKIP will not help the issues that they have.
Yeah.
So I spoke to somebody last weekend at her doorstep, and she had a real problem with the NHS and with low pay in her caring job. Immigration isn't the reason she has a problem with the NHS and her low pay job. That's not why she has that problem. So I think we need to be much better about saying you don't have these problems because we have immigration. Actually, I want to say much more about the benefits of immigration for the UK. And Labour has said that. I mean, it's one of the reasons we've said we wouldn't support a referendum on the EU, is because actually there's better things to be doing than to be arguing over membership of the EU when it seems pretty clear that actually our membership is beneficial to us. So I think we have tried to move things away. I think it's such a difficult area while you've got UKIP.
So the NHS has been a big issue in this election as well. And in Oxford, West and Abingdon, you've got Helen Salisbury of the National Health Action Party and Larry Sanders of the Green Party, who was on a National Health Service Board. They both told me that Labour began the privatisation of the NHS with the Private Finance Initiative. So do you think it's fair that Labour gets to be the party of the NHS?
It's interesting that they didn't mention that Labour founded the NHS, which I think is definitely worth remembering. I mean, we created it, and we will save it. yeah, we are the right party to be doing this because we're the party in Oxford, West and Abingdon that has a chance of forming the government, which neither of those parties do. Now I think actually you'll find an awful lot of agreement amongst us about what to do about the NHS. Now Labour is absolutely committed to repealing the Health and Social Care Act. That's absolutely clear that we've said we will do. Absolutely, unequivocally, without question, Labour is the party to save the NHS, no doubt.
Sally Copley, thanks very much.
Thank you, Luke.